How's it going, everybody? Nothing worked. It was worse because I moved everything around which meant that I removed my like side camera, which we need today. Oh my. And Windows snaps, and Windows, that's so frustrating. Just nothing working. I literally, I don't know if it's a bug with Power Toys or if it's a bug with Windows, but like it has this weird thing now where the Windows the icons in the taskbar will shift around to different desktops, and then you can't interact with that window or give it any focus until you actually like click the button. But then sometimes the apps will like shift to different windows, and I can't actually like press the top bar or anything. Oh, it's I'm not a great start to let's work with physical devices and see if we can get it working. But we're gonna work through it. It's the end of the year. I'm glad y'all could stop by. And speaking of devices, this one needs to be quiet. I can't believe it's the end of the year. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times now, but wow. Going into 2025 here. And I guess depending on when y'all are watching this, either live potentially or 12, maybe. We're getting close, right? We're getting close to some folks getting into 2025, the future goers. Okay, so let's see. Well, for some reason, also my Stream Deck is not working. I am just absolutely biffed. I don't know how I can possibly manage to like I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Well, we might just have to do without the Stream Deck, which will be annoying. But I'm going to go ahead and flip over here. We'll start getting stuff opened. Maybe I can just get it working on the side here as we go. And nope, I can't do that button. This one. There we go. Hey, Martin. Watching live from Germany. Nice. Yeah, I usually do. I mean, some of the reason I do this time slot is because it's convenient for me with work and other family activities and such. But also, it's kind of nice to get the European plus further over or further east from me folks to watch live too, because it's early for folks in like the U.S., but it's not the worst. Anyways, glad I could have you. We need Android Studio. I am just like super scattered now. We'll have to see if I've got a camera hooked up here on the side. Let me just double check to make sure that that is now actually working, because yes. All right. But that is not. And unfortunately, we don't have all right. We might need to like pluck around with this a little bit live, but we'll make it work. Display to. I think I just flip back and forth. All right, we're just gonna. I'm gonna edit this. We'll do a live. Display swap. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Stream Deck is just. Oh, that one. This one. I don't know if y'all see. Oh, hey, there's Darth Buddha. I was distracted. Good to see you. I got a couple of videos out in the end of the year here. Hopefully more coming. I don't know if I can subscribe to any specific cadence. But you know, I'll keep trying to make them happen as long as folks are finding value in it. And paste. And let's put it here. All right, that's not what I want, but why OBS? Why Windows? Why Stream Deck? Y'all just have to bite me at the end of the year here. What are you waiting for? Okay, well, I did actually end up getting the camera to work, so we will be able to flip over here, and we got the device. We should be able to get it hooked up and running. I did do a quick test just to make certain because this is stuck on Android 12. We're on, I mean, I think Android 15 just came out. So like my personal phone has, I have upgraded it quite recently though. So it's a few versions behind. So I was scared that it just straight up wouldn't work and we'd spend hours trying to figure it out and to no avail. So I gave it a quick test yesterday. That was the thing that I burned all my time on. And I did get it working. So spoiler alert, we should be able to get it working again. But until then, let us pull up our Android Studio stuff. And why is this is just bugging me? Why what are you doing, OBS? Or what are you doing, Stream Deck? All right. We're gonna kill it. And we're going to try it again here. So all y'all in chat, are you working on any sort of apps or anything like that? Have you tried setting up Android Studio? And have you gotten like a device working with it? I'm definitely curious what the experience has been for folks. All right. Okay, that looks better. I do not understand, like, there we go. There we go. We should be able to switch now. Hey, well, some of it. Apparently my transitions are gone, but I don't care about that right now. Yeah, how are y'all getting on with it? Because I'm definitely curious, like what. I feel like I've seen a few apps start to be launched. But until you get like stuff in the actual store and go through that whole process, it's hard to really get a good feel on how folks are experiencing it and working with it. Okay, so I'm actually going to, we're just going to swap back and forth between displays. Let's get rid of this one, go here, and then we're gonna update it in the Stream Deck. Okay. I had a little bit of free time here finally, which is nice because then I can actually get on top of stuff. Actually, I think this button will work. And here we go. Okay, so we should be able to swap back and forth. It's been nice because I'm able to like reconfigure all this stuff that's just really hard to do, when I'm operating on existing. But I feel like it's everything's sort of like always in 75%. Martin, you're just starting with Tauri for the desktop app and development. Just curious what you can do for mobile. Nice. I mean, it's really going to depend on what you're looking to do. If you're doing something for desktop, there are definitely going to be APIs that are intended specifically for desktop. And there's definitely going to be APIs that are intended specifically for mobile. So like, what would be a good one? Like NFC. It currently is only supported on mobile, right? But also, I don't know that there's a use case to, I mean, maybe. Like, is that even worth supporting it on those environments? If it is, it's probably low priority, or it's going to be somebody that really cares about it that's going to implement it. But like some of the, especially like, well, I mean, definitely some of these are very much geared towards mobile, or maybe the better way to say it is, it made sense to implement mobile first. So in the case of like biometric, I mean, I guess like my Mac has a fingerprint sensor, you could, I suppose, implement something with biometric there, but it definitely made sense to put on mobile first. So the long story short, there's definitely going to be plugins that are targeting one versus the other environment, desktop versus mobile. In theory, anything within the web view is the same, but you got to start thinking about the system support, which gets a little bit more involved. The browsers, or the web views rather, in the mobile devices is maybe not quite as well as supported as the ones on desktop environments. So it's continually getting better. So depending on what APIs you're using in the browser, you might run into issues there too. But much like some of the other platforms that use Windows into webland, we'll put it that way, like React Native, you can write code in Kotlin or Swift and have that work on mobile, but that's not going to work on desktop. So depending on what you're doing, if you need these very targeted implementations, hopefully there's a plugin. If not, then you'd end up having to write it on your own. If you're mostly wrapping an app and it's file system access, that all seems to be pretty well supported. So if you're trying to do something where it's mostly a web app, but with some like file system, operating system niceties, then you might be able to kind of just click a couple of buttons and have it work. How could you connect a Hugging Face model? I don't know that answer changes. Are you specifically speaking in the context of mobile? Maybe that's the first question. And to preface this, I know of stuff. I've experimented with neural networks and things that are qualified as AI these days years ago. So I'm aware of like how most of it all fits together. But until I've seen a really strong use case that I find value in, then I'm not going to end up experimenting with any of it personally. So I'm not going to know the nitty gritty details on hooking up a model. But like in theory, it's all, is there a file attachment size limit on mobile? I don't know offhand. Are you looking to do models dynamically? Are we making calls out to an API? Because then that matters less. If you're fetching these models in that manner, then it's more of a um, maybe that's a good place to start. What are you looking for when you say file attachment size? Local model. I mean, I download games on my phone that are 3 GB. um, so I don't know of a specific limit offhand, but I've definitely seen huge file downloads. Um, I suspect something with the model that I've seen with that's let's use a different word. The pattern that I've seen when implementing something like a large language model is that you tend to want to be able to have options or switch between, because none of them are like really capable, and it's depending on context. And I suspect some of that might make sense to do dynamically, and that's where you would potentially so if you've ever uh, downloaded a game on your phone, it's like 10 gigabytes. It downloads and installs near immediately, and then you open the thing up and it's like, we need to download all this content. Click OK to download 4 gigabytes, and you're like, fine, okay. Experience of that isn't great, but also you're not doing that terribly often when getting models, depending on how often they update or whatever. You could theoretically make that dynamic where somebody could opt into a specific model that you would click a button to download. But all of that is going to be very, like, that's not inherently special to doing anything with an LLM. It's content that you're downloading, loading, and using. So generically, it's going to work like many other things that would be in the same vein. I don't have a good example offhand, but like the games getting content and getting updates, that's maybe kind of a way to think about that pattern. Also, I think I'm in the vein of nothing's working and this is a rough right at the end of the year. I'm thinking I'm getting I think I'm getting sick from my kids. I've been working through something for the past couple of days. But what can you do? All right, so last time we did, let us open this and go to the playground. I have neglected to push this up, so let us go ahead and I'm not signed in anywhere. I don't think I'm signed in to GitHub here, right? No, which I guess I'm kind of okay with. Quiet computer. It's okay. Can you all hear that? It's not incredibly loud, but it's not quiet. That's another thing on the to-do list. I'm hoping it's going to spin down here for a sec. There's a fan that is vibrating in my computer. I really need to get back there and see what the deal is. Because if it happens to spin at a specific RPM or a small range of RPM, it rattles and it makes a lot of noise. All right. Okay. Let's go here. We'll do. Did I push this up already? Git log n4 Android. I did. All right, let's go over to GitHub. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of stuff on the side today. It's one of those days where when things aren't cooperating, my prep falls down. Okay. That's also part of the reason I did this. I was pushing off doing the mobile. I can pull this over now. Pushing off doing the mobile just because it's like I'm not, especially on this machine, I'm not actively doing anything with mobile development. So I had to download and install Android Studio, double check that it's all working. Like it's just a bit of a process, you know. If y'all have gotten into it, it's not awful, and you only have to do it once. It's just when I'm also trying to do other things and like get all my equipment to cooperate. There's only so much time in today, and I was also trying to get some videos out here. We did. I should probably. It's not the one I usually use on stream here, so it's well appropriate resolution for my eyes being a foot from the screen. We did this on stream to set up Android with this project. Okay, we're gonna chuck that up real quick. I can come back and make that message a little bit clearer, so you'll have some link backs. And we're going to do a git checkout. Actually, I got aliases in this one. Okay, make that bigger. Move this over. Let's start to get stuff configured here. I did see folks that were having a little bit of a hard time seeing, or mentioning that they have trouble seeing the size of this. Let me know if it is still a little bit small, and we'll try to make this zoom in a little bit more. But Zoom IDE. Okay, that's not bad. And then we'll make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So this is Android Studio. You don't necessarily need to have it running when you're doing app development. So one of the things that I've found, especially with working with Tauri, is that you're dependent on the dev tools that are inherent with the system that you're working on. So in this case, we're looking at Windows. When you're doing a desktop app, it's doing effectively like Edge. So if I open up the browser web tools, I'm getting the equivalent of like what's an Edge. Close enough. Kind of the same for here. I'm working with Android, so I'm kind of dependent on whatever my system is set up to like handle, but also Android is not Windows. So then you run into these you're dependent on like Android Studio or Mac is sort of its own world. Like I can't run I can't do the Mac app, like an iOS app development on my Windows box. So like that's the kind of stuff that you kind of have to think about. Some other platforms are a little bit better with that, where they can like cross build and whatnot. But part of being inherent with the system of working with the system web view is that you kind of need, we're sort of like stuck in compiling on that system, but then also you kind of want to do dev on that system as well, just to see those little inconsistencies potentially. If you do a bunch of web tech, they're not awful, but I would be remiss not to mention it. So what we did last time is we set up a bunch of virtual devices. We were able to get it working with like the Android simulator, and we were able to do like breakpoint debugging. So if you've ever done, it doesn't seem terribly common in the web tech world, but if you've done breakpoints or watches, like that type of thing, you can actually hook that up with like Chrome DevTools or whatnot. That Node has like a debugger, but it doesn't seem particularly common that folks are using that. It feels more worthwhile to set up here. So that's what we're doing, and that's why we have this open and running. So we have our two devices here. There is, I thought this would stick around a little bit longer, but I might need to pair it every time I do it, which is sort of annoying. But we can see I have a pretty clean, I tried to clean it off so I didn't have a whole bunch of stuff that we need to worry about. So relatively clean Android experience. When you're in debugging mode, it shows up on the top. There's like a persistent notification. I don't have that right now, so it's definitely not connected. And it also showed up in the list here too. If we pop back over to this, it showed up in this list. So we're gonna have to double check that. Let's just make sure that we're at a baseline and we're working with the simulator first. So once you have it installed and initialized, so if you're one of the folks that haven't gotten into the mobile yet, there's like initialization process. That's what I just committed. That's this. And we should actually do a down on the bottom, make that bigger. Git fetch, git pull. There we go. That should make this go away. There we go. So what we ended up doing there is in, do I care? No, that's fine. It generates Android stuff. And I'm not sure why this is, why is that green? Interesting. If you haven't initialized a project, those folders won't exist. Because if you're just doing desktop, there's no point in you like downloading all this stuff. So there's no real reason to set up, because there's so many like additional generated files that are required for mobile. It doesn't make sense to generate them unless you opt into it. And I don't, at least in the near future, see that changing. So we have initialized both an iOS app, which is the Apple folder, and Android. And we did Android last time, and that's what I just committed. So it's got a whole bunch of generated files, and we start to get into, you can see some Kotlin in here. So if we do now an npm run Tauri Android dev, we should get this. It is saying there's two emulators. We can pick which one we want to do. We're going to do the fold because I don't think we've played around with that much on the last stream. Both of them are already set up though, so we shouldn't run into any specific issues with it. But the fold, if you're unaware, is a device that literally folds open. And that's why we picked it, because it's almost like a weird square resolution, it's different. So now you can see here, we don't really have anything showing up in here. You can see that it's doing the spinny thing, so like it's attaching to the pixel fold. Now it's green, so it's attached to that device and that simulator. So we'll start getting the installation that happens. Basically what it's doing is it's installing the app on the fly over the wire, performing streamed install. So that process has completed. And if you do this on your like a personal device, it looks like it just disappears after the fact. So you don't need to worry about it too much. And this is the other reason I kind of wanted to try this first. The way we have it set up right now, we're just immediately asking for permissions. So when you open up the app, you just get this pop-up right away. So I'm going to allow that. And then did I take too long? Yeah, it looks like I might have just taken too long. And sure, we want notifications. There we go. Interesting. I mean, some of that is just like, it's a very, very demo app. We'll put it that way, a very demo app. So now if we press some of these, we get things happening, and we get output here. Here we have a console message. You can see it's coming from source app.tsx, line 125 and line 130. So it's doing some stuff. And if we hit, I think it was scan, just scan. Okay, there's a weird, like, the way scans happen is kind of weird. Okay, so it's still actually in camera mode. We might need to actually like exit out of it. Oh my gosh, I do not want to do any of that. Can you please just be quiet? So like some of this too is, this is going to be like first experience for somebody trying to do some of this. Okay, I don't ever want, do you want, please turn off. Nope. There we go. Okay, so now if you go, hello chat, good read, we get the notification right here. So that all seems to be working. The camera, you can see, is still active. That's what this icon, if you're unfamiliar with Android, it does this little icon in the corner that says that you're recording. We hit scan. The way this plugin is set up, it's using the the barcode scanner. It expects your web view to go like transparent. So we might want to like play around with that. It straight up crashed when we were trying to do it with iOS in the iOS emulator. It works here. They actually have a, maybe we do that real quick. They actually have a, let's kill it though, because I don't know a better way to stop the camera access. Go away. They actually have like a virtual environment for when you hit the camera in the simulator, which is kind of cool. And you can like move around in the virtual environment. And I don't know, it's kind of a nifty idea rather than just failing. So I guess we can try to make that transparent real quick here. When you set up your app, as is typical with most web tech, you end up setting like a root background color. So what that's doing is it's setting the color, like the default color for the background. And if you render that in a browser, typically a browser will have its own defaults. So it sets a like default margin, padding, background color. It was more common years ago to have a like a normalized.css, which basically like reset all the CSS to a standard. They're all relatively consistent now, so that's not as needed. But the thing to think about here is when we're talking about the web view, it doesn't actually have like a default. So if we don't give it a background color, then we end up getting an app, which, and actually, can't really do it in this, can we? We end up getting an app that has like it's basically transparent. So by not adding a background color, I think it'll just go transparent, which might just be enough for now. So let's try just taking that off. We do also need to, and actually maybe I should qualify my statement. You can, when you're starting a window or creating a web view, set like a default background color. We might have, I'm gonna close all these. We might have actually set a default now that I'm It's been a while since I played around with this, so I don't remember offhand. We want to go to configuration, and then in is this V2? Yeah. It'll be in like the Windows, so app, and then identifier. Where's Windows? Bundle build. Okay, so app config, window config, and I thought there was a chart here. I'm looking for a table. Oh, I thought there was a table. Must be thinking of something else. Okay, so window config, we want to look for the, so decorations are going to be the Chrome, the, like the window around your window. I guess maybe like the frame of your window is maybe a better way to say that. There should be though a theme here, transparent. So I guess it's just transparent. Transparent true. Now we'll go ahead and do that again. I'm not sure how it's going to work on Android though. I'm a little bit curious. It might be interesting to run it on desktop first and see what that looks like. And then as well as running it here, because I suspect they're going to be different. If you look though at the, well, it's just about done. We'll look at it in a sec. If you look at the docs, interesting. If you look at the docs for the barcode scanner, it says that you should make it transparent. I'm not sure if anything is actually making it transparent though, or if something's preventing it from being transparent. Barcode scanner. Okay, so we need to add this snippet. On iOS, the barcode scanner requires this. You know, honestly, that might be the reason that it was crashing before. We didn't look too deeply into it, so that could very well be. There is, yeah, be sure your user interface is ready to show what is underneath with a transparent element. So I guess that's only if it's marked as window true. What do we have? What do we have it set as? So here you can see like literally the app loads and we're just asking for permission, which is not the way to do it, but it worked fine for the moment. Okay, so we are using windowed. Let's actually try taking that out. I'm curious what's going to happen. We got a rebuild. It's just in the web view. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so then I guess we don't have a way to get back, which is part of the issue. So it opens up and then like, where do you go from here? So like the camera is working, but also I don't know. I don't see a good pattern to like back, go back. And we are saying formats QR code, right? Yep. So I don't know if it's like specifically looking for a QR code or something or what. But you know, seems to work. And that again, this is that like virtual environment. So I can, I think, interact with it. Control V with mouse and WASDQ. Whoa. Can I actually like go out of the room? It does not like that. All right. So we might need to keep it on window true. So like a scan should be, I don't know, like if we find a barcode, is it going to do something with that? I'm not 100% certain. Okay, so this is where I think we tried to hook up. The Android Studio. So there is a couple ways we can do that. Or excuse me, hook up Android Studio with the actual physical device. I think what we do is we check out a couple of the ways you can do it first. Did this close? No. All right, so it's still like running and attached. So I'm going to hit stop. If you want to see this device manager, there's a little button on the right side, at least on mine. I haven't edited things too much, so it shows up here. Now, to get that to show up, I think it is, which one is it? This. There's a pair of devices using Wi-Fi. You can also just like plug in a device using like USB debugging. And there was, let's go here. Actually, do I still have that open? I might potentially still have that open. Yes. Okay. We will drop that here. And okay, that is really bright. There's two sections in here. Connect your device using USB and connect to your device using Wi-Fi. So again, one of the things I wanted to double check on was the Android version, because again, this device is on Android 12. This does work with Android 11 or higher. So that's great. If you have something older, I guess USB is the only way you can go. But the problem with that is there's some setup. So if you want to do USB debugging, you need to, on Windows, if you're running it on Windows, you need to install OEM USB driver. I didn't want to deal with that. Honestly, I would prefer plugging it in. I think the experience would be better, but I didn't want to deal with trying to get the USB drivers set up and working. So I just said, let's just go ahead and do this. Now, what this process does is if you're on the same network and you have network settings that are appropriate to allow you to like see other devices, then this seems to work. So I have a network that is set up with VLANs. If you're unfamiliar with VLANs, it's just a way to like sort of segment your network a little bit, but you actually get like different IP address ranges for each of the VLANs, which can be nice in some situations, but not so nice in this like magic pairing type situation. So I had to put this device on the same VLAN as this Windows box. I might have been able to get around it, but like that was just the easiest to go. So if your networking is all good to go, it gives you two options. There's the pair over Wi-Fi using a QR code, or pair using a pairing code. And we need to get into it and turn on debugging. So there's, should we go? Yeah, we can do it on the real device. So I had to go on this device and go into the settings. go away. And there's an addendum here that it made sense to me to use the guest account. So, I mean, particularly for streaming, I was like, well, let me just set up a guest account. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. We'll actually take a look at that and see what that error looks like when if you would try that. But in the settings, if you don't have developer mode turned on, it's slightly dependent on the version of Android that you're using. But there should be a developer options under, I think it's always been under system, at least for a while. If you don't have that, they've got instructions on the site that we were just looking at. But you go to your build number and you just tap it 7 times. So now we want to go to system and then developer options. And in here, there is some things we need to turn on. So if you want to do USB debugging, you need to have that turned on. So when you plug it in, it will say, it'll attempt to do the USB debugging. But if you don't have those drivers installed, if you're on Windows, then it just doesn't work. We can go back over here and look at if you happen to be doing Android development on Mac, you don't need a USB driver. This also needs to be way bigger. You don't need a USB driver. So this is only going to be a Windows thing, which is, the way it is. But once you've turned that on and you have a driver, you would plug it in and it would just like switch into the USB debugging, and that will then end up showing up in that list as one of the options. And then there's also wireless debugging. So it seems to like toggle off when you're not using it or when you turn it off. So we need to like turn it on. And I'm double checking. I'm trying not to like leak too much personal information here, but nope. Okay, so I turned it on. I had done pair device with QR code previously, and it did just connect. So if you've done it previously, you just turn it back on and it'll show up. Otherwise, you would have to go through that process where you need to do the QR code. And the reason I'm not opening it up right now is I don't know how futzy it is with like, does it regenerate a QR code or is that tied to something that I can't reset? So I'm not going to do that on stream, but you go through one of those options that shows up in this, that shows up in here. You pick which one you want to do. It seems to work as long as your network settings aren't getting in the way. And then it connects. So when you'll know it has connected when it shows up here. That's how you're going to know. Hello from France. I'm trying to figure out how to say your avatar, I guess. Is it just a whole bunch of numbers? Numero D8R24Z. I feel like that some leet speaks something, but I'm not seeing it right now. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Love me some French food, I gotta say. I did a couple jobs ago. I did a bunch of work in France, and we basically toured the whole. Toured, I guess, is maybe a strong word, but we basically did work throughout all of France, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun to see how, much like in the U.S., you go in the north and you get the Midwestern accent and Midwestern ideologies, and then you go south and then you get the southern version of that. You kind of get that in France too. Like Paris is definitely not the same as southern France, or you go get into the like southeast, along Germany or whatever, you get a lot of that like German type of influence, and that it's a different feel. It was really cool to see, and food was amazing. I love experiencing culture through food. Anyways, so now we have that device showing up. So we should be able to rerun this. We're going to hit this. I'll switch over so then we can see it start showing up. And it kind of just opens up. I will prep to switch because I want to see a little bit of this first. It's going to dump a whole bunch of code and all of our warnings that we haven't addressed yet. And it's going to on the fly install it. I'm going to switch over here now because it's finished the install, and we should be able to see our app. That reflection is lovely. I have gotten this a couple times. I have a suspicion this is not. Are we on we're on the owner. I was not expecting to hit this yet. Permission denied. So I was getting this error last night when I was double checking it. I was getting it when I was running it in the guest account. So there is some admin level privileges that it needs. So you can't really do the USB or Wi-Fi debugging in guest mode, from as far as I can tell. Let's try running it again. We'll give it another shot. It seemed to work like when you'd rerun it a second time. I mean, I could maybe try hook it up with my main device, but honestly, I would rather not. The chance that I keep things private that I want private is low. There we go. Okay. Yes, I'm not sure what. It seems like redoing it seems to work. We do get some crashes and stuff. You can see here we're getting no such file directory. So like some of it I suspect is because this is an older version of Android. And there's like, it's not really intended, I think, that we support, but like probably Android, maybe Android 13, because I expected folks to have set things up on that, but probably like 14 or 15. So just the fact that it works is pretty sweet. Now, what I kind of want to go do from here, like we're basically at the point where we were last time, and we're about an hour into it. I think what I want to try to do is, some of these don't seem to work. I'm curious if we can use like the breakpoint debugging or something like that to sort of understand why, and that'll give a little bit of a tour of that process, I think. Darth, France is a country of many languages. Oh. What I mean, English is obviously a big deal in places like Paris now, right? Like it seems with like any place that's sort of touristy at this point speaks English. I know when I got further south into France, that was much less common, and we had somebody along with us that it was me, a coworker, and then another person that we had along with us that lives there, so they were fluent in French. But like once we got into the south of France, some of the people that we were working with, like they were primarily French. Like they spoke primarily French. So they're, especially when you're talking very technical terms, having somebody that can translate is invaluable because um, I can I can like order food, or at least I could, through by the end of that trip I could order food with a French menu, and I could like have enough conversation to figure out what they were saying and what I wanted to say. I don't know if I could do that with technical terms though. So, anyways, what I mean, I'd presume that you get to the borders and you get some crossover, like you get to the you know, Germany border, and I'd guess some folks there would speak more German. But is there, and also La Cuca, man, I'm sorry if I butcher anything. It has been like a decade since I've been there, something like that. Yeah, I think it's about a decade now since I was last in France. So I all of that has not depreciated, but like if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. La cucaruche, rute, la cucarute. That's supposed to be French, right? I might have to like open up the translate to help me out. Okay, let's get. I'm pretty sure that notifications works. So we'll do. It's a French dish. I would say that sounds familiar. We'll look it up in a second. A lot of them like. Um, there's actually a specific dish that I've been honestly trying to remember what it was comprised of for like years now because I've been craving it, and I think I know about the area of the place where I went. I cannot. I mean, it's been 10 years, so like that restaurant could have closed. But also like, anyways, you know what I'm saying? In Ukraine, most people spoke English, especially in the capital. But the further east you went, it became more Russian in the cities and Ukrainian in the countryside. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Um, the cities tend to be more reliant on importing, exporting, so or tourism. So the knowing additional languages is usually helpful. And like at this point, it feels like English has kind of become the default. You miss the food. Are you from the U.S., Darth? Yeah, definitely. I've been to. I would like to do more, but I have been to France, New York. Nice, New York. In the city. Um, I've been to France, Italy, Spain, Germany a few times. Most of that has been for work. Um, so you know, you can only do so much tourism when you're doing work stuff. But also like I don't know, it's fun to see the touristy type things. Like when we went to Paris, I had to walk around and see all the stuff. Like we didn't get into the Louvre. I would have liked to do that, but we went up the Eiffel Tower and um, but honestly, like experiencing what was really cool having somebody there to help translate was that they also give us all the like cultural background and whatnot too. Um, so they were it was really neat to see that side of it. It was like having a tour guide the whole time, because they enjoyed sharing, like their heritage and such. So it's really neat to see that type of stuff. Okay. So if we do hello chat, I think we're gonna be limited by how long my voice lasts. We're gonna not that one, that one, and this one is one I went. So every time I type, you can see we're getting debug messages, and that's because it's being printed to the console. Like in the web view, the web view console. So we have a console.log that is logging out every time we type. So I just wanted to kind of make note of that. So I'm going to delete that, and we hit greet. We get the notification. And you can see, as we're speaking about notifications, we got the one that we got, or that we just sent, and then there's also this notification. So I can turn off wireless debugging just by tapping on that. That notification that we just sent, I did have to do the permissions. So in the exact same way, I set up the permissions. So if we would look at the permissions here, if we go into app info, I would be able to turn off permissions. And then that would go away, notification. So if we turn off allow mobile notifications and we turn off the camera, or let's say ask, I don't want to like outright deny it. Now when we open it up, is it so it doesn't, oh, it does show up in the app list. So I'm gonna press it from the app list. It didn't actually pop up any of the notifications to accept stuff. I'm curious what's gonna happen now. Yeah, okay, so we're just not getting it now. So when I mean much like on desktop now in V2, if you've only used Tauri with V1, when you shift to V2, you'll notice that the permission setup is a little bit different. The permission setup is such that as they were, so like Lucas did a lot of work to set up the mobile development. As they were working on that, they found that the model that we were doing permissions in V1 didn't really match up with how mobile thinks about permissions. So in V2, we sort of like switched to more of a mobile type ideology as far as permissions go, and like the permission structure and setting that up. And the desktop apps also got that as well. And honestly, I kind of like that. So it's a similar permission setup in Tauri, regardless of mobile or desktop. But you get a lot more configuration in now in desktop because we've sort of like mirrored what mobile's always had. Okay, so permissions. Was there anything else? I see your messages there, numero, but I wanted to finish my thought here, which might be done at this point. So we've got permissions. I needed to accept the permissions when I first started the app. So the mobile development is a little bit more restricted than desktop. So if you need to be able to have that, or you should have the expectation that somebody can, at any point in the future, after first confirmation, change the status of one of your permissions. So if you require camera permission, you'll probably want to ask for it up front. Maybe not when the app loads, but maybe when you first use the camera. But then at any point in the future, if they click the button to use that camera action, if you don't have permission, you need to be able to like request it again, because they might, like even within the Android system now, it will, if you don't use an app or a permission for an app for a long time, then it'll prompt you and say, hey, do you want to turn this off? Because like you're not using it, which makes sense. But that you really like need to be considerate of that when you're doing the dev now. Okay, so you have a question. Is it possible to make a server with Tauri 2 because you're making an app with Angular and Tauri, a Tauri WASM server? I mean, like, yes, but also why might be part of the question. yeah, I feel like a little bit more context would be helpful there. When you're making an Angular app, that is something that you can build and compile and put, like, bundle within the binary. There doesn't need to be a server running to handle that. Now, there are potential use cases where having a server running in your Tauri app is beneficial. So we did an experiment probably about a month and a half ago now, where we were wiring up a YJS, which is like a local first real-time type syncing mechanism. It allows you to, if you have it set up appropriately, sync data from one device to another, and that can be done over multiple different protocols. The one that we were experimenting with was over WebRTC, so like a peer-to-peer connection. WebRTC, though, needs a way to it needs a discovery mechanism, and that discovery mechanism comes from a signaling server. We ran a signaling server within the Tauri app, and that meant that app A could communicate to the signaling server and create a peer-to-peer connection with the other device. And then the data would be updated between them through, like the way YJS works, their sync engine mechanism. So that made sense to run a server because we wanted some way to help that device discovery. That could also be something that you run in the cloud, have some infrastructure somewhere with that infrastructure or with that signaling server. But the neat thing doing it in a Tauri app was that we could, in theory, do completely like local first, as in like this data never leaves your network, which is neat thing to play around with. So, all of that being said, Tauri WASM server. Are you looking to? You should be able to generate a WASM file. So I guess some of it comes back to why. What's the context there? You don't, in just because you're using Angular and Tauri and doing something with WASM doesn't need that, or it doesn't mean that it requires a server. So there should be a reason for it. So Darth Buddhist says, I should use this now that I put the time in to make that a little bit easier to read. There's benefit to doing this. In theory, the web view shouldn't be trusted. Any code that you give to the client shouldn't be trusted. So that also means that your Rust really shouldn't be trusted either. The web view is maybe a little bit more accessible, which is why it's less trusted. And it's also sandboxed. So honestly, like if you're doing communication, in theory, the most secure way to do it is probably to go through Rust. But also the chance that you do that, unless if you really know what you're doing, or you're using a plugin maybe, then that's probably could be better. But the chance that all of those boxes are checked and you're shipping something without an actual bug in that process, it might honestly be more secure for you to make a call directly from your front end. Like either way, theoretically, both of them work. So yeah, it's security is interesting because there's nothing that's 100% secure. It is if you're being chased by a bear, you don't want to be the slowest running one of the group. That's the way you survive. So yes, I'm always going to recommend doing it as secure as possible, but also secure, like as secure as possible means that you never open up the app or access the data. So there's gonna be a little bit of push and pull there. So you're using Angular Web and Angular Tauri app. I think you should be able to avoid using a server. Where is WASM coming into the mix? Angular Web doesn't compile down to WASM, does it? I was pretty certain that was it didn't use any WASM, but I could be wrong. Okay, let's flip back over here. This is running. Now, if I suppose I should be doing it this way. I had it set up this way, and then I forgot when I was looking at it. Yeah, nothing is secure in the net. Yeah, yep, yeah. So like, yes, in theory, do it through Rust is probably going to be the most secure because the Rust gets more compiled down, and it's harder to observe that code and then to change and crack it. But also you're doing communication to an outside, from a client to an outside network. Regardless, there's potential, you know, man in the middle, et cetera, et cetera. There's any number of places where that could be compromised. So just by moving it from the web view to Rust doesn't mean it's going to be 100% secure. WASM, because it's very light. So are you actually compiling your Angle? Wow. Let me try that again. Are you compiling your Angular web app into WASM? I mean, if that's the case, you should be able to ship the WASM along for the ride too. So we've done on stream, golly, that must be like 6-8 months ago now. Yeah, maybe something like that. It's been a little bit. We played around with a library called Leptos, and there's a few Rust-based libraries out there with like folks have tested it too, or folks have tested it already, and like it's known to work. But there's a few. If you want to go like pure Rust, you can theoretically write everything in Rust. You do all of your quote unquote backend, Tauri builder, etc. in Rust, and then you write your front end in Rust. So something like Leptos lets you write the code that's intended for the web view in Rust that gets compiled to WASM, and then when the binary is built, you include that WASM just like you would your indexed HTML or your JavaScript or your CSS. You include that in the binary, and then when that page loads, it will load the WASM and run the WASM, just like it would do the same for JavaScript. I don't think this has changed, but you will always still need JavaScript to at least bootstrap the WASM. So you're likely basically just like shifting your code into a new file type. Like as far as like size of the code goes, there might be like differences in compile size or whatever though, but like functionally you're still going to be shipping an index HTML, a CSS, a JavaScript file, and then newly a WASM file. So you shouldn't need a server. I don't recall if you need to do anything special for WASM. But I would double check on the like Leptos docs, because I know Leptos creates WASM. So you could do like a create Tauri app and just check out the Leptos. I think Leptos is still in there, and that generates a WASM file and includes it in the binary. I don't know if Angular has support for it, but you still will likely want some sort of dev server to do the WASM build and then host it, so you can have some sort of local feedback loop. That might be the only thing that you need to look into. I think Leptos uses Trunk, I believe, to do that. But yeah, either way, totally possible. WASM should work just fine. The only thing that you'll need to keep an eye on is, again, Tauri uses web views. Web view is per system. So depending on what you're doing with WASM, WASM is a little bit more new. You might need to be a little bit more careful, or some of those edge cases might be less often handled with WASM. So that would be the one thing that I would just be cognizant of. Okay, we got it working. We do notifications. Whoop. Greet shows up. We get the notification. Now, I gotta go down a little bit actually. If we hit scan, it doesn't do anything. So something is, I mean, this is the updated app. The camera is clearly working. So we might need to play around with that a little bit. And if I hit the haptic feedback, I'm not getting anything. So a couple things to check here. We'll flip back over here. I want to double check. First of all, the haptic feedback. And this is where you start to cross over into like it's helpful to understand where the boundaries kind of are as far as like what is going to be your Tauri app and what is going to be like, if you're working with mobile, there's some point where you're going to potentially cross into permissions and APIs and potentially like Kotlin if you're on Android. So knowing like where that boundary starts to, like where that boundary exists, it's not like a terribly hard line, but knowing when you've kind of like switched into Android land, is helpful because that'll help you when you're searching for information. Now we want to look at Android 12 haptic feedback. Not working. That's interesting. Okay, so we got to ensure that it's on. I'm just gonna search for it. I'm not gonna swap over here and check because notification vibration is turned on. Okay, so it's definitely on. I don't know how much I trust the AI overview. That could be Android Studio physical device. So this is a pretty old so there might be some level of like how it's implemented. And again, this might also be a permissions or something to think about. Let us double check our logs here. Hello from debug. Hello from debug. So that's all the typing. If I have the app open and I'm pressing the haptic feedback doesn't seem to do anything. So it must be hitting some type of permission error. Is my guess, at least. If we look at, I guess I'll switch over here again. It's so inconvenient to do it sideways. I really need to like rotate this camera, but we're stuck here. Is there permissions for? I want to go into this app info and permissions. We've not denied any permissions. camera was last accessed, and don't see anything else there. So let us go look. Do we need where's haptic? That might not actually be in this list. Global dialog deep linking, auto start overview. No. Let's go look at the repo. All right, haptics. So the feedback, there are no standard requirements for vibration support. Yeah, and like this is one of those like I'm not sure if they're going to error or how that's actually going to resolve. So the upside of developing for iOS is you have a small subset of devices that you would actually need to test on. Like in theory, you could reasonably test on every iOS device that you're targeting, like the physical one, not just a simulated one, like the physical one, and which is good because their simulator seems a little bit less capable. Like it doesn't do the camera, or at least it didn't when we tested it. So yeah, so this was actually code that was written in in concert with this rescue.co worked with Crab Nebula to create this plugin, and then they were able to open source it as part of the agreement, which is neat. I like personally, I think that's a great way to move things forward like this. It doesn't have anything like so init error await selection feedback. All right, let's look at the bindings here. We don't have anything that's really helping us there. Do we have any anything in the code? Where's our code? Guest.js. Bindings. Okay. This is a generated one. If you haven't played around with Tauri Specta, pretty neat package. I did a little bit of overview in the last video that I did. I was reading your comment and it blitzed my brain. We went through commands in that video, and I had a little section on Tauri Specta. It's a really neat package. But anyways, that generated this. So unfortunately, we don't have much as far as documentation goes. I suspect because we also don't have much actually documented in here. Yeah, so there's like no documentation here. Now what it's doing is there's different types of feedback. So it's like the shake changes or the vibration changes depending on which one you're using. Now, if we look at Android, do we have any notes in there? Also a test. Java patterns. So these are the different, So these are the different vibrations. Nothing too wild here. And it's basically just firing them off. So what I don't actually see any error, which makes this a little bit harder to debug. So this is a Pixel 3 XL haptic feedback not working. Well, that just might be. Whoa. I do probably have some stuff turned off. I'm gonna flip back over here. So do not disturb is on. Let's turn that off. Turn off now. Turn off now. Okay. It really doesn't want to turn that off. Okay, no, it says it's off. That could be. So vibration and haptics is turned on for notifications. I don't know if that's qualifying it as notification. I wonder if the do not disturb is the reason. So if we start that back up, no, doesn't seem to be changing anything. Vibration and haptics, touch feedback. So it's definitely working because when I touch it now, I get the feedback. So anytime I'm toggling these, I don't want to turn that up too much, but let's just make sure it's not off. I don't know if any of that is actually going to affect it or not. All right. Nothing. That's interesting. So that could be a device thing. How do we debug that? We're not getting any of the messages here. So normally we've got the console.log. I would expect that shows up here. When we're pressing it, we're not getting it. So I'm actually going to close that stuff out. I want to make sure that we are getting the latest. I have a suspicion that we lost the connection or something. So let's give that a try again, and then we'll see if it's working. If we get an error, I think we can look in Android Studio and see if we can debug it. So in this case, we're not getting any error though, which is kind of interesting. Okay, now we're getting the haptic console log. Still not feeling any vibration though. So let us try. You can see here we've got build variants. If you want to look into this and see how we got it all set up and working last time, last stream is a good one to check that out. I don't know if there's going to be too much as far as settings go, but the main thing that we're looking at right now is doing a -- open. And what that's going to do is, rather than dumping all the logs and setting it up with the terminal, it's going to effectively just open up the Android Studio and hook it up to that, and expect that if you need logs, you look in Android Studio instead. So we're going to go ahead and run that. It will do the exact same build, but instead you can see it kind of opened up the window and swapped the focus. And it says info opening Android Studio. So now if we go over to Android Studio, there is a log cat. We should be able to see all of our logs here. Right. So the profiler shows up there. Oh, offline. There we go. There we go. We had to switch which one I was pointing at. So we can see a little bit more. Well, context listed slightly different. You can, every time I press the haptic button, you can see our console logs happen. There's a check permission, there's a request permissions from barcode scanner notification, and I don't see anything for haptic. I wonder if haptic does not require any. Is there any permissions that are required with it? If we look at haptics, doesn't actually say there's anything required as far as permissions go. So I'm going to assume that that's correct. And now if we go into the haptics, we should be able to haptics plugin, look at the plugin and potentially put in a breakpoint. So if we're pressing the button and it's executing the code, I'm guessing it's going to be a vibrate pattern, as everything's going to go through that. So haptics plugin, vibrator, get system service. So that's just setting up some context there, and then it calls this with a args, and the args is going to be what dictates the vibration effect. So in this case, we're just saying, hey, vibrate directly. These have specific patterns though. If we actually go in here and we say, let's not do the vibrate, it's possible that like one of those is failing and then it just, none of them work from there. Let's try one. What's the impact? Selection feedback. Let's try that one and see what happens. So I'm not certain if this is going to reconnect or rebuild. So we changed here. We will see in here that it's Vita is reconnected. Hello from debug. So if I start typing here, so that's working. My input is working, and then if I hit haptic feedback, we're still getting the hapticing, but no vibration. So like it's clearly working. That log is happening, but the feedback just doesn't seem to be. Let's try the notification. We'll try each of them like one by one. And if I like close and reopen it, it still seems to be connected. I don't know what I need to do to like load the UI there. Like if I close and reopen the app, so if I have it open, now it's not going to open at all. Interesting. Am I getting any output? Seed missing signature. I have a suspicion that there's like some weird like old Android stuff going on. Fatal signal code thread pool. Yeah, scaling max frequency. So like this feels like just one of those APIs that isn't well supported, and while we have programmed here, but it doesn't feel like it's worth actually fixing it, because it then seems to work again. But none of the haptic actually seems to change. All right, let us close and restart, and we will give it a fresh shot and just see. All right. Okay, thanks for stopping by. What's Tauri? There's a high-level answer and a long-winded answer. Effectively, it helps you to build an app for desktop or mobile using WebTech. So the code that you could write and deploy to to be basically shown on a client's browser somewhere, you can do something similar, package it up, and deploy it as an app. So somebody could then, download it from the app store, or download it and install it on their desktop environment. Depending on what you're doing, if you're familiar with WebTech and deploying apps or marketing pages or what have you, you might not actually might not be value in creating an app. But if you're doing OS level type work, or you want some of those more like local first sort of properties, then creating it as an app can provide some benefits. All right, so polling for restart, opening Android Studio. So this should be, again, wired up. And if I open up this, and yeah, I'm getting no feedback. I'm going to write that one off as old Android, potentially something with the demo. Like all the haptic stuff seems very iffy. Like it might be a nice thing to just chuck in there, but I hope you don't really like if you rely on it, you need to do a lot of testing. Maybe is the best way to say that. That being said, let's see if we can plug around with the scan a little bit. So there is we have a scan, and this is a promise. We want to double check, and it seems to open, and it was opening both in the simulator and in the physical device, which is nice. And actually, I guess while we're talking about that, what if we let us stop this? Let's switch back to the simulator for the moment, and let's see if we can get. Let's see if we can swap to. Let's do the Pro. So if I click Start, this one still seems to be connected and running. I'm curious how it's going to end up working with that. So let's go ahead and open it this way. You're back in dev, but you want to get into this stuff. How does it compare to the Kotlin stuff? So when you're making an app, you need to do the view layer. The view layer is effectively a web view or a browser. So for that, you're shipping HTML, JavaScript, CSS, potentially WASM. And it doesn't really matter how you're building it. Anything that works for the web, in theory, works. The caveats are if it is expecting or dependent on a server, so something like server-side rendering doesn't really work. Like it doesn't really make sense to do that unless you're doing something complex. So anything that you can like build and bundle into one of those, into those 4 file types, and then assets, so PNG, JPEG, etc. Those can be bundled into your app. Then the back end, or the like main wrapping layer is written in Rust. If you are interested in doing desktop apps and there's no plugins, you might benefit from knowing some Rust or getting into Rust a little bit, because then you can do work in Rust that can then be, either just like executed, one-off executions or whatever, or something that executes and returns and shows data in the web view. Now, if you want to do mobile, that's when Kotlin or Swift start coming into play, because Kotlin is the code of choice, I guess you could call it, that we generate to handle the mobile implementation. So if you're doing a plugin on mobile, you will end up writing or need to write some Kotlin, and that Kotlin will end up being the thing that gets compiled and is run in tandem with the Rust to actually execute functions. Then you end up writing little binding files for your front end to trigger those pieces. So it's going JavaScript from the web view with a little trigger function to Rust, and Rust kicks off processes to Kotlin as needed. So you'll end up having like a Rust kind of bindings file to point to these other codes, code languages, which feels, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of backend dev you are, but like that feels like it could get complicated and like I don't know if questionable architecture is the right word, but like why use Rust? The nice thing is that Rust, I mean, it has a bunch of niceties just as a language, but also it has the like built-in ability to compile to many targets and create bindings with many languages, which is a really interesting paradigm. And I think that's more and more why we're seeing it leak into Linux, like into the Linux kernel. So in theory, folks have worked on and developed like bindings to Python or bindings to other languages. So and backend dev, if you're into Rust already, you could write a whole app in Rust. You could do Rust for the backend, and you could do Rust for the code that goes in the web end or in the web view. So there's some options there, and ideally we want to support more languages and ways, and make greater use of the ability to create bindings with Rust to other languages, but we're only on V2. Did that help? I feel like that was like I said, there's the high level overview, and then there's the like, I'm going to chat for 20 minutes about it. So yeah, I mean, it's going to kind of depend on what your language of choice is and what platform you're looking at doing, what might dictate which direction you go with things. And like, there is some serialization that happens from the view layer to Rust. So depending on what you're doing, that might help dictate what type of work you do in one place versus the other. It might make sense to do more work or less work in Rust as compared to the web view, depending on what you're doing and how often that communication happens. And I haven't actually seen any data or anything for it. It would be kind of fun to play around with it on stream, but like seeing that performance profile from the web view through Rust out to Kotlin and back, like what does that look like as compared to what if I just wrote Kotlin? Because that's always going to be a question. It is a trade-off, but also the pro is if you're familiar with web tech, that's a pretty big benefit. So just that ability to ship can really change the game. Get into Rust and WASM for backend and frontend. You want to do it in a language, you can do both, but have good support for WASM and WASM components. We did we actually mentioned it I don't know, like 20 minutes ago or something. There was a stream 6 or 9 months ago or something like that. We went through Leptos. Leptos is written in Rust. It compiles down to WASM. So we did all the Rust app, little demo app. I mean, it wasn't anything terribly complex, but we had a Rust for the Tauri builder, and then we had Leptos that eventually gets compiled into WASM. So we had WASM in the web view, and written by Rust, or generated through Rust, written in Rust, and then we had the Tauri builder, which is always Rust. It's pretty fun. I like writing Rust. I'm not incredibly proficient at it. I'm still much quicker in JavaScript and TypeScript, so that tends to be my default. But having the options is cool. Okay, so now we have 2 devices with this green little box. We have our actual physical device, and then we have the simulator. So now if we run this, we get the opening Android Studio. I don't actually see any simulator anywhere. Did it show up on a different? I don't see it on any of my other monitors. Just because I don't see it on a different monitor doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I was just complaining at the beginning of this stream about the windowing in Windows just not being a great experience for me right now. It's not hiding behind any of this, right? No, I don't see any of it. What if we stop? So just the fact that this one's connected, it's going to default to that. So when we were running it before, here, let's stop, and I'm going to turn the dash open off. It is still defaulting to that. What is the other note? Yeah, okay. Sure. So, like, I mean, in theory, I could turn that off, but it would also just be kind of nice to not. Okay. Oh, there we go. I forgot. If you click it through here, it doesn't open up as a separate device. It shows up in this panel. I wonder if you can pop this out. View mode, dock, undock. Yeah, okay. So that would be how you'd pop it back in and like back and forth. Let's close this. Let's open it with the dash open again. And oh, what's interesting here. So again, different web views. This could very much come into play here. We might need to play around with it, and I don't know if that's going to end up dictating. You can see like our camera is immediately running. the little green dot there. This is all, wow, is all working. My keyboard is shifted, and that's loud. My keyboard is shifted because I'm trying to make it easy to show the camera. So if we hit this, it goes to the camera immediately. So like it is just showing it immediately. So I need a way to like, whoop, to hide and show the background. Okay, if I hit scan, then that shows up immediately. I need a way to like stop scanning. Let's see if we can figure that out. Oh, interesting. Controls for that, I'm guessing. So the barcode scanner is, no, let's keep that open. Let's go look at the code. Barcode scanner. This is how you call scan. And there's this specific note here. If you're doing window true, it sets the web view. Oh, what windowed true actually sets the web view to transparent. Okay. So that's actually changing the web view itself. I think that makes sense. Now, windowed true actually sets the web view to transparent. So is it setting it for us? It kind of looks like it, at least in the simulator, it looks like it is. So if we go here, it's not. And maybe that's the bit that we play around with. If we look at the color that we have right here, let's do something a little bit more subtle here. We'll go with that color. Okay, so like clearly a different color now. And if we click scan, is it actually gonna, no. So we need to make sure that we don't have a background color. And what it's going to do then is, without a background color, it's gonna swap the default. So that's one of those weird things with, I mean, maybe weird is a relative term, but what's different between desktop and mobile is desktop, you can have multiple windows. On mobile, you do, but you can't really like have them opened or layered at the same time. So how you go about stuff is a little bit different. We can't click a button and open up a new window for the camera. So there's sort of this like cheeky swap to where we're keeping the same window, but it's swapping over to, like, your interface is still there and it's just, you know, pulling the curtain apart so we can see behind, and then we put the curtain back up when we're done. So now we need to figure out how to like put the curtain back up when we're done. It does seem though to, is it also showing up in, is it going up in both? Is it still running in this one too? No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, maybe. So it's still, yeah, it's still here. Now if I hit scan here, it's definitely not changing the web view color. So like that could be part of the difference here. And that, unfortunately, isn't something we're really going to be able to debug. If we go into, everything is kind of going through the scan. So if we,
look at the code in Kotlin, barcode scanner, and plugin. So has camera, setup camera, bind preview. Can we look at the, like, does it actually export anything else? Cancel, check permissions, open app settings. Cancel the current scan process. So that's probably useful. That's probably useful to have. If we put in a new button and we call it this with all right, well, let's try that again. This one. Why don't you like that? I guess we'll put it in a row and we'll have a cancel scan and let's just call it cancel. Sure. Apparently I've got something like giving me completions. So now if we hit cancel scan, that actually stops it, which is cool. It is actually changing the web view color in here, or the transparency of that window. If we go into this, if we turn off transparency true, I don't know if that's actually going to change this or not. Because I think what's actually happening is it's doing it at the web view level. But the question then ends up being, yeah, let's go ahead and give it a restart. So that's cool actually that you can have it in two different places. So I can have my phone hooked up and have it running in the simulator at the same time. So like in theory, you can kind of test multiple versions at the same time. So that works. Now, after a scan returns, there must be some like return process. So let's go back and look here. There's a destroy, dismantle, bind preview. Request permission. So you can see these are decorated with that command. Those will end up showing up in our JavaScript side of things, where we can little tiny binding function that kicks off to Rust, which then kicks off to this plugin. So we can see there's an open app settings, there's an open settings result, there's a request permission with the callback, and scan. So scan is going to, if it has permission, so it'll throw an exception if we don't have permission. Otherwise, it's going to, here it's setting the web view background to null. I wonder if that doesn't work on Android 12. Prepare. So what we can do is we can say here, we're going to, well, actually, yeah, that's fine. Now, we got a breakpoint there. So anytime we press scan, we should be getting that. If we look at view, where is it? View breakpoints. Here we go. Okay, so we have this Kotlin line breakpoint enabled. Suspend. Okay. So now if we are running, right? It is running. We should be hitting that. I'd expect that we do, but it doesn't seem to be suspending, which is interesting. So if we go here instead and go, let's try restarting, see if it does anything. It doesn't seem to actually be triggering this. So we got exception breakpoints, group by class. That was a watch point that we had put in while we were playing around. We don't need a condition. All right. I mean, we could try that just to make sure it's actually hitting it. We got a lot in the logcat right now. Let's check that out. No network security config specified. Interesting. All right, so if I hit that, I don't see any messages there. It would also help if we switched over to the Pixel, the Pixel 9. So the now within Logcat, we have two options because we have two devices that are connected. It is actually pushing out the test builds to both of them. So we both get on our physical device, and in the simulator, we get the logs, and we can swap back and forth between them as needed. Do we have anything that's going to be helpful here? That's the question. So if I hit scan, we're getting some logs. Camera, use Android, all use case, recalculating open cameras. Interesting. There's two cameras. Okay. Attempting to send capture request unconfigured. So it's streaming right now. And then if we hit cancel, it'll cancel it. Last consumer. I'm assuming that's the cancel. Why aren't we actually getting a breakpoint here? Barcode scanner plugin. That's the scan command. Let's start restarting it. I don't know if that's going to matter, but I'm also going to disconnect the physical device too, just in case. We can turn it back on when we need it. Okay, I pressed the button. Now if we go into device manager, this, I guess, did I not press the button? Oh. Now I did. There we go. So now it is not connected anymore. So when we start this, it's only going to run with the simulated device. And if we go over here, and now when we hit scan, it is still definitely running. It's weird though that it's not why is it not breaking? Let's just put a bunch of them in here. Come on, break, my friend, break. View breakpoints. So we got our breakpoints here. I'm not seeing any messages, which is interesting. So like it doesn't seem like it's hitting. So each one of these should be logging out breakpoint hit, right? Well, I don't know how it saves it or not. But when we click a thing in here, I would expect it to break. Cancel scan. All right. So it doesn't seem to actually be doing anything there. Those are all example graphic overlay. Yeah. Everything's in here. And you can see like it's doing a bunch of work here too with the web view. So it's clearly like modifying the web view and we're seeing that. So it's doing stuff in here. If we bind to preview, dismantle, get formats, prepare, destroy. There is a vibrate too, interesting. Open app settings. We can try just one of these. Do we need to like do that with the app to get it to? This is so weird. And I'm not seeing anything with oh. Okay, maybe not. Rust standard error, TF light in play services. I don't see anything that actually points to the fact that it's logging out stuff. And all right. So this suppress line obsolete SDK init. I thought that's where we were doing the debugging before. So we have build variants and Gradle scripts. We're in Tauri plugin barcode scanner. We are doing a scan and a cancel from the scan barcode scanner. We have run it with -- open, which should wire it up directly to this. Let's remove all these breakpoints. I don't see anything that actually says anything is going wrong. Build. Do we need to run? Okay, so if we have debug app, I think we need to do that. I think that was a bit that we weren't missing, or that we weren't running. Because when we run it, so this is opening Android Studio and it's technically running. So if we switch to debug, then we'll get the actual breakpoints coming up. That was the bit that we forgot, I think. Gradle build running. I'll give that a second. I think this is the bit that wasn't executing. So I think what we check is if we only run it on the physical device, can we see any errors? I think that's the thing we check for. We can do a breakpoint. We will break and then see. Maybe we could look at the web view for value or something. Okay, so it still says great build running. I don't know how much I need to pay attention to that, but I go in here now and say, oh, now if we look at this scan, there's a camera permission scan here. Let's put a breakpoint in and see if we can see it now. Breakpoint hit message. Now we did get an error here. I don't know how much I care about that, I guess. Whoop. Okay, so if we hit scan here, it's not breaking. Cancel. It seems like it's all doing what I'm expecting it to. Let's try doing that again. Because I'm pretty certain that we need a debug run to get the debug symbols in there. So there's a run app and there's a debug app. That device is running is under running devices, and then it's got a connection to it. Execution failed. Command npm cmd finished. So that could very well be here. There's a I don't remember if universal debug is what we had last time, but I want to say that we probably want to do I don't know if that updates every time. That feels better. The build variances was something that we had to play around with last time too. Ooh, this looks better. No. What if we just... I thought we needed that running. But also, what if we don't? King Gray, good to see you. Is it, what time is it? Is it New Year by you? I still have a few hours. When I say a few, good handful. npm.cmd finished with non-zero exit value. Why? So this should open it up, and it would do the thing I'd expect it to do. I think we'll have to play around with the build variants just a little bit here. I know last time, we had to play around with the build variants. Build output. Yeah. Go to build and build variant and select x86. So we want x86 debug, I'm pretty certain. I don't know. Well, yeah, debug for all those is fine. Oh, because we also did the profile. Yeah, no valid processes selected. Okay. Oh, I don't know if I was supposed to do that. Attach debugger to Android process. I'm pretty sure that's what we're supposed to do, is do that. I think that's how we did the profiler last time. I'm not sure why we're getting the rust error though, or why we're getting the x86 64 debug. What if we try x86? I'm pretty certain it should be I mean, let's try it. By APK only supports. All right. Yep. Cancel. And we were on universal debug. I'm just gonna try all of them. Yeah. Okay. ARM universal x86. Let's try ARM 64 debug. We'll see what happens. I feel pretty good that this is the issue. I thought we did that x86 before to get the debug to work when we were using the simulator, but this doesn't feel like part of you know what? I wonder if there's a we are getting an npm command failure. I wonder if it's complaining because TypeScript errors. I wonder if it's not a soft warning, it's a hard warning. Let's do cancel. We want x86 64. So that would be x86 is the system architecture. I've got an AMD chip which uses x64, or excuse me, x86, and 64-bit would be is it the bus? It's 64-bit rather than 32, which is that used to be the default. And we're still getting that failure. All right, let's do what would be npm run build. Seems like it's, yeah. Oh, yes, we ran into this last time too. We've already granted permission. So what we did last time was in here, we're like, we don't really care about that right now. Let's just nix it. I don't need to ask for permission because we already have permission. And I just want to get past that build. So we do this, it runs the dev server, opens up Android Studio. Then from Android Studio, we can click the run debug, and then we should get breakpoints. So if we hit this button now, we should get the build, and it should actually finish. What now? What now? What now? New build. Why are you complaining? We are on x86-64. Okay. Okay, opening Android Studio. Now we run this. I kind of feel like there's something to be said about the tooling that is in the web tech ecosystem. Feels like it's more polished than elsewhere. Some of this is just less familiar with it, but also can't just be me. Process command npm.cmd finished. All right, let's just try stopping this. What if we just run you like this? That is weird. No connection can be made because the target machine actively refused. I haven't updated anything either, so but we're still getting the npm.cmd finished with a non-zero value, which seems odd to me. We'll do a full build just to make sure that all of that completes, but like it's finishing now. So I don't know what cmd command it does not like that is failing. We don't have any other like in-process changes or anything like that. We could go look at the video from last week. Almost there. Oh, hi. You want to come say hi? Good timing. Come on up. Yeah, you. Come on up. Don't be shy. There we go. Hi. Get tea time. It builds. I mean that's a desktop version, right? So if I do -- Android build, I don't know that I've actually ended up running this before. That builds. This all seems to mostly complete. Can you all hear that? Or can you only hear when I talk? Yes, come here. Stop torturing my green screen. So, app Rust build arm release. Oh, you got itchy head, don't you? My lighting's getting goofy though, but whatever. When it gets all fuzzy, I really probably should just change that. I might just get rid of all that. Still seems to be running. I don't know why this we're getting this npm.cmd command failing. The worst part about a black shirt is now I'm gonna have cat hair visible. I mean, in some ways, as long as it's just a black hair, then it's fine. But it's usually though some of both. This one's the cuddly one though. Bamboo is her name. Can you see why? Hi, you. Yeah, I'm talking about you. All right. Wow, this is kind of a long build. 84% executing. So if this doesn't work, I thought we were just doing the debug build before. Like we were just pressing debug. So I don't know that. I think it was something with that build variant. But we switched it to x86, so it should be working fine. This is our devices. Oh, cool. We can select multiple devices too. Edit configurations. So like once it gets loaded in here, I don't think we actually need to debugger detect automatically. Okay. I mean, it finished. Unsigned APK. So, why aren't you working is the question. Attached to process. Okay. I mean, we didn't do any of this last time. We did, we switched this. So we switched the build variants to x86 64 debug. Then this is open and running. So it's running with the Vite with our compiled or included code and the, I believe, compiled Rust. And the code for Kotlin, it's basically running this generated stuff. So it's running things in here. And then when we do the It's not like stashing any of this, is it? Tauri.properties. I don't think it does anything with that. So I'm pretty certain we should be able to just hit debug app and it should, in theory, work. And I think that's what we did last time. It does. So like there is more Rust running, but I think that's just the bindings for the plugins to Kotlin. So we get a download info, we get a debug error. Execution failed for task. Process command npm.cmd finished. So if I rerun with debug, what do we see? There's a lot more. Releasing file lock. So now we could, if we go into the help menu here, I think there is, so we did an init initially. There's dev, build, and then help, which is what we're looking at. So if we do an init dash help, what does that say? Just CI, enable verbose logging, skip targets install. If we do an init again, is it going to change any of our build files? That is part of my question. Dev help. Was there anything else we had to do in here? Features. Force IP prompt. So there's a flag to run it in release mode. But I don't think we're gonna have any value in doing that. So I'm gonna try an init again. I'm just curious what's gonna happen. So, like in theory, we are committing this because we don't want to generate it every time. But also, we don't need that there. It can potentially change. So let's scrub some of these folders just in case, and we'll see what happens. All right. So let's do a dev dash open. We'll see what happens when it opens up, and then we'll try it in the debug. Otherwise, I'm kind of running out of both ideas and voice. So we still have our x86 64 debug build variant. I don't see anything else in here that we could be doing differently or wrong. Okay, so that's open. If we hit this, I mean, we still have the dev server running, so like there could be some weird thing going on there. But it worked last time. I'm pretty sure this is what we did. And well, it seems like it got further. Well, it did some other stuff with warnings. But we're still getting that. What's weird is I didn't actually update anything. So that would be surprising that anything breaks. Build Build task, run Tauri CLI, and assemble. Build. I don't know Kotlin or Gradle enough to know exactly where these generated things would end up showing up. Build task. What's my npm version? Still 10. So it is failing in run Tauri CLI, right? Assemble run Tauri CLI. Working directory executable args. So it's running stuff based off of the executable, which should be all perfectly fine. I mean, we could try bumping stuff. Dare we? We've been going for 2.5 hours already. I mean, if we get this debugging, the only thing we're going to look at is the fact that it's stopping. I suspect what's happening is web view background. We're setting to null. So what we can do is Android 12 web view background color. And I suspect there's something like this where the APIs have changed. So here they're saying you must set this and then in your XML go like that. But also this is color transparent. I have a suspicion it's something like that. If we break point on that spot, I don't know that it's going to help us though. So like in theory, we should be able to get to stop there, but for some reason it's not working. I'm pretty sure that's what we did though, right? Let's just can we give it a quick look? That. All right. Okay. So if we go, let's see what we did. That was all setting up that, and then we got to the breakpoint debugging, and you can see we've got the runnings, like the stop and start in the top. The upside of recording videos of you doing the thing, when you don't remember what you did to do the thing, you can just go back and look. Okay, so here we switched. It was still in universal debug. Still in universal debug. I'm pretty certain that we need to switch it. I'm going to seek ahead and see if we can find a spot where we switched it. Oh, okay. So that's when we got the profile working. Okay, so it's still on universal debug. All right, let's try switching it back. Maybe I'm wrong. Universal debug. All right, so if we do that, I mean, that shouldn't really matter though for what we're looking at, because it's an npm error. Yeah, I wish it would like give us more context here. Does logcat have anything? No. And it's not running here at all. I'm confused. Color me confused. If y'all have any ideas, I'm open for it. The fact that I'm reviewing my last video. Oh, okay. Come on. Nope. Kitty does not get to go on my desk. Okay. So did I here we're profiling. Here we're debugging. So I'm looking at this symbol here. When we click debug and it's running correctly, that debug symbol turns green. So when we know we get a good build, it will be green. So if we go back just enough to where when it's not green, that should be right before we turn it on. Come on. So we're at 328 right now. Somewhere in here so we're running it. We're still on universal debug. There we're getting the same error. So we get an open. We see it. And we are it's definitely a universal debug. I'm going to swap it back to that. I don't think it actually matters, but oh, it is. And then we are also running it here. So we're doing this and then we're clicking debug. We can see the connections going through here. Let's close that for the moment. It's this build process. It is doing in arms. Oh, why is that saying? Oh, I guess it's universal debug. Okay. So we click the thing and then we get the debug just finishes correctly. These are all failing to run too. Linker CC not found. Wow, something is. I didn't update anything. Okay. Well, that is interesting. What we're gonna try real quick here is it is effectively just generating all of this, right? If we go like this and we do a source story and a gen, I am going to just straight up RMRF Android. Then we're going to regenerate. And let's just see what happens. Now, open. Otherwise, there seems to be something going on here. We can. I'm going to close this project until it opens. I just want to make sure that it's like reopening the project we're expecting it to. Okay. Running devices. It's there. We have logcat. That's a different symbol. Okay. It's still loading those. All right. That's loaded. Now, if we press this, to be clear, if this works, I'm not sure what changed or why that would work. But also, something just got really goofed up with. Yeah, it's saying that it can't compile a bunch of stuff. So something changed. So Rust ARM debug build. Could not compile mobile due to one previous error. Linker CC not found. I mean, it could very well be that Windows has changed something on me, and now it doesn't work. There is, every time I open this, Android Gradle plugin as an upgrade. It could very well be any of these. And speaking of which, we did set these. They don't seem to be loaded. Why? I have a feeling that when it is kicking off this task, it doesn't actually have the linker CC. Let's search for that real quick. We'll go over to the Tauri repo. I have a suspicion that it might still be the environment variables. I thought we had set them up and fixed them. But it could be very well that something in yeah, I wonder if it's potentially the environment variable issue. Lots to do with the environment setup. Not found. Yeah. So I feel like there's something weird going on here. Let me try one more time with this. And we'll do a debug. The linker CC not found makes me wonder, what's my cat getting into? I don't even want to know. Yeah, the fact that it's saying command npm cmd failed. I'm wondering if there's some like environment variable. Because we set those in we set those in PowerShell. They should still be there though. Environment. Okay, you need to stop opening up there. Yeah, I mean they're set. Android home, Java home, NDK home. They are set at like the operating system level, so they should show up in PowerShell. I guess if we go here again, and is it not Echo Java home? How do you do environment variables on PowerShell Echo environment variable? Sure. Sure, fine. Android home. Yeah. Okay. Is that what it is? Okay. Hey Zenko, good to see you. What I do not know what I did a dot, not a colon. There we go. That was what I was doing. The dot I think is that a new shell thing? I don't know. My brain is fuzzy. This getting sick when I have vacation is no fun. I don't know why it's not working anymore. It worked well before. Why can't I select that? Choose process. Like it's running. I think it's attached. But as soon as I click the debug, it fails. Let's try the scan. We ran into this before, right? Was this the same thing? It feels like it, but I'm hesitant to say that it actually is. What's the most frustrating about this is we had it working literally on the last stream, and I didn't try to change anything. But you know, Windows just updates itself these days, so who knows? Command npm cmd finished. Why? All right. Let's just try killing this. We'll do it one more time with this. Otherwise, I am running out of ideas, and my voice is starting to go, so it might just be a good place to stop. Yeah, that is a weird one. Why? I don't understand why that would be failing. I think something must have like changed or updated. I don't see any other some like operating system something or other. Oop. I don't think this is related. No, that's unrelated. See, what's interesting too is it works fine in dev. So like the main process or workflow works, but just this debug thing that we were playing around with last time doesn't. Maybe clean the target directory? Why would the so I cleaned the gen Android and we reinitialized. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing that, but this also feels like it's I mean, that's what we did last time, right? We did this, it ran, it compiled, and then we hit debug, and then it just worked. Well, after a bunch of messing around with stuff, but like, um, I mean, I think we played around with the build variant, but none of what like we didn't get this failure at all last time that I recall. So doing this, it still does load and work here. So we have the app right here, but we can't do the debug. Oh, it kicks off two separate processes if you press it twice. That's annoying. So scan, and then cancel. Like that all works. And now I thought we just did the debug, right? So this was running. It looked like we had the ARM debug for the build variant here as the default. And we have that as a running device. And then we just did this. Oh, sorry, universal debug is what we had. And then we had the debug. Either like something updated somewhere. That's the only thing I feel like would make sense in my head. Because like we were clearly getting it to work before. I still have the video open up on the side. We weren't getting the linker CC not found though. I'm not confident that that's the issue, but I have a suspicion it is. Yeah, because it's like straight up not even running in here. What if we just do this one? Will it just even run, period, without the debug stuff? We're still on universal debug. Linker CC not found. This is probably also going to fail. It's kind of frustrating. We had it working. I thought it was a done deal. And now it's doing otherwise. What changed? And it weirds me out that the process command npm.cmd is the thing that's failing. That does not make sense to me. But also, if it's already running, we shouldn't need to rerun it here. So like, is that the thing that's actually failing? But we did have it running. That's the weird thing. It's running. You can see it running here. And it's making the connections. And we are hitting debug. So before this, did we get a linker CC error? I don't see that linker CC error either. And we're on universal debug for the build variant. And we're just pressing debug. So it opens up and we hit the debug button. I think something changed. That's the only thing that I think makes sense. I might just go back and look through and see what see if we did anything with the environment variables that might have changed. I don't think anything updated, but I did restart my system, so yeah. I think we're going to throw in the towel on that, honestly, before I lose more of my voice. I'm not certain what the deal is here. We should be able to basically do the debug, and then we would be able to see that stopping on the device. Now, that being said, I suspect some of these, like just the fact that we're stopping here probably isn't going to help us too much. But like in theory, we could change code here. So we could say like, we could just straight up throw an exception. Yeah, no, bud. Now, does this actually? Yeah, like this isn't actually the thing running and changing. So we'd have to click run or debug to get this all to run, I think. Because I don't think this is actually the updated code. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that's what we would have to do. Do we have more than one? So we have mobile. It's not even like anything we do here doesn't seem to be changing anything. So I have a suspicion that it's doing like this is the original build, and we need to turn on debug and get that working to be able to see any changes here, including breakpoints. So I think we kind of throw in the towel there. We got it working. It seems to be working on the device as much as we can. And if whatever is changed, we got the breakpoint debugging working before. So in theory, we would be able to change things here. We'd be able to see on our device why or what that should be, and we'd be able to potentially play around with it. So like if you're writing a plugin, or if you are if you're writing a plugin or you're debugging an existing plugin, I think this is probably going to be the way to do it. Presuming you don't have to deal with whatever the heck this is. Linker CC found. Yeah, something. I mean, like, it could just be a bug, but also nothing has changed and it worked last time. I think what I'll end up doing to see if I can get it to work after this is just upgrading everything. I don't know. I personally don't know enough about the Android development to know if there's a better way to deal with this. And also, I don't think it's really worth the time. So yeah, I think that's where we're gonna call it today. It would have been nice to get a little bit more of that working, but what can you do? This is development, folks. Next time, I I think we're going to kind of just resume our weekly Tuesday in the new year. Seems that we've got folks stopping by and we get some good chat. So I don't see any reason to change or move it around. It has been a little bit annoying with like not just these past holidays, but like a lot of the U.S. holidays land on Monday, which means all of the meetings and everything happen on Tuesday instead. But I don't know if there's a better day for between my work stuff, my personal family stuff or whatever, and then um just finding a good time to do it. I think though what we do is we'll probably set the I think we'll probably set the mobile development down for a little bit, let that cook, and the things that I want to look at near term here in the new year is get into more of the local first stuff. We did a few streams on it. We've explored a couple libs and a couple libs in the context of using it with Tauri, which there's some interesting bits there that I wouldn't mind exploring a little bit more. But there's also a couple other libraries that we haven't done anything further than just kind of talk about it. So I would like to go through a few more of those. Potentially in the using the expectation of running it within Tauri as a as like a way that you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Using Tauri, or the expectation of running it within Tauri as the lens that you're kind of looking at it through. I think that's sort of a unique spin on it. Because some of these libs are neat and they're useful in many contexts, but some of them also have very interesting integrations that work well with Tauri, especially if they've got some sort of like Rust server or whatever. So if they have pieces that are implemented in JavaScript and Rust, then that starts to get real interesting. So we'll probably hit on a bunch of those, and I would kind of like to get into a little bit more of the like performance / compatibility testing and looking at that and seeing what we can do with I mean we saw it a little bit today, but like alleviating some of that issues and potentially pulling in and playing around with some of the work that folks are doing with potentially pulling in Chromium embedded or Servo. I think it would be fun to play around with those a little bit, and kind of just give folks more tooling around understanding and dealing with this and having a good feel for what's possible in the web view versus what would potentially make sense to pull in one of these other alternatives when they become more real. So yeah, I think that's I know a couple folks left comments on the video. I think somebody said they wanted to dig into thermal printing, which is both kind of awesome, but also like that's a rabbit hole if I ever saw one. Yeah, printing POS receipts, thermal printing. Yeah, it would be cool. I don't have a thermal printer, so that one might not happen. But leave a comment if you are interested in us going through anything else. We'll play around with more of this like web tech plus story, or just web tech by itself kind of content. And I'm really jiving with the idea of like local first and sync engine stuff, which I don't know if it's one of those things where the deeper I go, the more I see it. But I feel like more folks are also talking about it too, which is cool because I've always been interested in it. Now it has more terminology around it, which is both a good and bad thing. But also it seems like it has more activity. Like there's just no way that I could do the things I would want to do without having other folks work on stuff. I just, making an app and then also making all the infrastructure below it is a tall ask. So having somebody else working on infrastructure is nice. So I think that's where we're going to leave it. If it's after midnight for wherever you're watching, Happy New Year. And we'll have a great rest of your week. And the new year, if you haven't yet celebrated, be safe, have fun, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye.